Man, just put myself through a workout, and normally I don't like, filming myself or recording myself because I feel like at times kind of defeat the purpose a little bit. But this was an experiment for me, so it's about 11:10. Got to the hotel. We have a tournament tomorrow. Joe from Bakersfield to Gilroy, and a little tired. But I was listening to this podcast. Obviously, I'm 27 years old. It's Joe Rogan, and he had on a guy named Stephen Pressfield, who's one of my favorite historians and historical fiction writers. He's famous for The War of Art, which is a famous book, and I haven't read it. It's on my list now. He wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance, which became a major motion picture with Matt Damon and Will Smith. And then he wrote a pretty popular book, I think, in the wrestling community, in large part to Jay Robinson. If you've ever been to one of his camps, one of the books that he buys and then resells at the camp is Gates of Fire. And it's about the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae. But one of the main parts of this podcast was talking about this thing called resistance. And I'm going to do my best to paraphrase it. But essentially what that is something that, kind of the ego, right, of yourself is putting out almost like these messages in your brain that are trying to slow you down or prevent you from reaching your greater self or reaching your potential. So for example, right, I wanted to kind of test this theory. So, I figured, I have some energy right now. Let's go ahead and try it. And, I ran a mile on the treadmill and I was feeling good. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to do 15 rounds of this circuit. And it's a circuit that I used to do a lot in college, pretty much a similar one. And it involves pull-ups, involves some kind of leg exercises or arm exercises on top of that, plus a core. So I went 15 rounds. And after the third, fourth round, I was like, dude, this sucks. And I felt the ego starting to create that resistance. Like it's telling me, maybe instead of 15, we'll just do 10, or maybe, I can kind of slow down, take a little bit of a break. But part of my plan originally was that I wasn't going to do it, right? I was just going to not take a break. I was just going to go straight through and not necessarily go super hard, but just have a good pace, have a good rhythm. And like I said, when I got to that third or fourth round, I started feeling that ego give me some resistance. And it was interesting, right? Because I knew it was going to come. I didn't expect it necessarily, I guess, to come right there. But I pushed through it. And it was gritty for maybe, I don't know how long it took me. But pretty much the next 3 or 4 rounds. And then once I got to round 8, I felt myself, well, I'm already almost done. I'm past halfway. I'm on the downward slope now. I just need to finish. And once I got through that resistance, I knew immediately, oh, dude, I got this. And it was just I don't want to say a relief, but I just got a burst of energy where I just need to finish, right? And I don't think I'm saying anything that's necessarily super groundbreaking, but the reason I'm bringing it up is that I feel for one, the whole reason, I'm trying to, I guess, vlog or create some kind of recording, right, is that, to be honest, I don't really care if this gets seen or not. I think a large part of it, though, is having something that I can put out there to get a feedback, right? Having something that I can put out there that's going to get challenged as a way to kind of identify what's working and what is going to help me be a better coach, better person, better teacher, etc., better friend. And ultimately, that's kind of why I wanted to start this podcast originally is, how can I best improve myself? And frankly, if somebody gets something beneficial out of this too, I think that's great. But really just trying to put my discovery for me, and test myself and put it out there, I think is an important part of my development. And, I'm hoping that, by putting myself out there and trying to find, that greater self, hopefully it's going to embolden, my friends and, obviously my athletes. And, I think hopefully it's going to, like I said, embolden them to try to find their better selves too. And understand that resistance is part of that path too, ultimately to developing the best version of yourself. So that's it. That's all I got. We're going to look to get another podcast in this week. That was kind of another thing too, that resistance, right? When you start getting kind of tired and there's an urge, right, to break that habit that is going to be ultimately, again, the best thing for you in the long run. You kind of settle like, oh, I'll do this later, I'll do it tomorrow, we can do it later this week when it's more convenient. But having that thing where you say you're going to do something and you do it, right? I feel like in the last couple of years I've gotten better about doing that, but that's a really important thing, and I've found out, through some of my friends and some of my mentors, that that's a very rare thing. When somebody says they're going to do something and they actually do it, right? So the plan is to be really consistent with putting out new podcasts and trying to practice what I preach a little bit. So if you're listening, you made it all the way through, thank you, and make sure you like and subscribe.